So, welcome to our breathing space meditation for Sunday. What are we today? Oh, yeah, 13th of April. And today, meditation on body and breath and thoughts and feelings. And then a little bit of just relaxing in body and breath while I finish off with a reading from this book, Falling Awake. How to Practice Mindfulness in Everyday Life by Jon Kabat-Zinn. As we all know, Jon Kabat-Zinn was one of the pioneers of Western mindfulness and really has become like the founding father of Western mindfulness, along with a range of other great people from the 70s and 80s and 90s. And so it's always nice to reconnect to our principles and practices. And rather than paraphrasing, I'm just going to use his words. But we'll begin by settling into a meditation. So, so finding yourself a posture today. That posture could be sitting or maybe lying down, or even standing. I rarely see any of you doing standing for a meditation, but it has its unique qualities. So just checking in with your body, with your energy, and when you get an answer from your body, you might just get an instinctive decision that today is a lying down day, or today is a sitting up day, or today is I'll try standing meditation because I haven't done that before day. As you find your posture, using this as a way of tuning into the body, dropping our attention into physical sensations of shifting the body, arranging the limbs, feeling the surface beneath you, connected through points of contact, perhaps to legs or back or arms or head. An opportunity for slowing down. Noticing what happens when we invite our attention out of the doing of the busy day and into this pause of just being. And whatever's here today, whatever distractions, letting go of expectation of how a meditation should be, or even how you would like it to be. Noticing those tendencies that we have to want things to be a certain way. And if possible, trying to drop underneath that into a space where we just meet things as they are, and where we might be open to being surprised. As we allow the attention to settle, as we feel ourselves dropping into awareness. Perhaps there's a sense of the movement of breathing felt in the body, a sense of the body in contact with the chair or the bed or the mat. And just letting things go. Allow the body to do the breathing. Allow the surface to receive the weight of your body. Allow yourself to be held and supported. And we become just like a butterfly, this attention that can fly from place to place without any effort and rest as if landing on a leaf. We can rest that butterfly of attention into body or thoughts or feelings. And we can ask that question, what is alive in me today? And as we go through today's practice, we might hear an answer from the body, the aliveness of physical sensations, or from the heart, the alive emotions and feelings, or perhaps even from the mind, the aliveness of thought. So, a question that we can sit with on many levels today. So we can always keep an awareness of breath of points of contact in the background as an anchor that we can return to at any time. And if you prefer today, you might just rest in breath, rest in those points of contact, and just use that as your practice. But if you like, there's an invitation here to turn our attention down through the body, through the legs, down through the feet, and to rest our curiosity into feet and toes right now. Just asking what's alive in feet or toes right now. Noticing what happens as we rest our attention down in the feet. Being curious. And whether we feel or don't feel any sensations in those feet, what's it like just to rest attention there, whatever happens, to be with the sensation or the lack of sensation, and just notice what happens as we rest attention there. And maybe you notice some sensations in some part of feet or toes, maybe on the skin, in the muscles or the bones. Maybe a sense of temperature, buzzing, tingling. Maybe some contact with socks or shoes or blanket or bed or mat. And if we do find sensation, inviting a curiosity maybe about where those sensations are, a particular place or point or location on the feet. And then just noticing the different layers and qualities of those sensations. As we rest our attention here, perhaps we notice a reaction in the mind or the emotions, curiosity or boredom, ease or frustration, relaxation or restlessness, a liking or a disliking of keeping our attention in these feet. But everything that we notice is okay. It's just part of what's alive in you right now. And we're simply dropping into awareness, dropping into a sense of falling awake, noticing the mind and its tendency to think and to drop into certain patterns of thought. Or to fall awake into awareness of the emotions that are constantly alive around the experience of liking or disliking what we are experiencing. So by resting attention in the feet, we open up this possibility to see ourselves as we are right now, the full picture. So let's return our attention to feet sensations. Notice what happens, what comes alive around that invitation to rest, awareness in the feet for another minute or so. And if we are noticing a very busy mind pulling us into thought, there's that moment of awareness. I'm thinking. My attention's no longer in my feet. And that's a moment of falling awake, of coming into awareness. So we can recognize the thinking, recognize that moment of coming into awareness. And at that moment, we get a choice. And The invitation is to use that choice today to drop awareness back into the body. A new moment to start over again. So on an in-breath of your choice, let's just recognize everything that was alive around resting attention in the feet. Sensation, lack of sensation, emotion or thought. On an out-breath, we just let them all go. We rest in the breath, the in-breath, the out-breath. And then on an in-breath of your choice, inviting your awareness into the legs. Noticing what happens as we arrive, as we open awareness into legs. And then just opening a space for a sensation or a sense of physical connection to come from the legs. Perhaps in muscles or bones or skin. And again, if there is very little here in the way of sensation, the invitation is to stay here anyway. Just notice what comes alive around resting our attention into what we feel or don't feel in the legs. Being curious about location or quality of any physical sensations. And noticing any reactions around what we find, a liking, a disliking, comfort or discomfort, ease or resistance, calm or restlessness. Just explore what it's like, what's alive. And any thinking, either about what you find in the legs or maybe something else that's pulling your attention away. We can recognize those thoughts too, without getting caught up too much in them. Recognize that moment of awareness of thinking, a falling awake, a dropping in, and then we can let that go and come back to another sensation in the legs. Then on an in-breath of your choice, recognizing everything that you've noticed, everything that's come into awareness, thoughts, feelings, sensations around the legs. On an out-breath of your choice, letting these all go, resting in the breath, in-breath, out-breath. And on an in-breath of your choice, inviting your awareness now into the pelvis and then up through the back, up to shoulders. First of all, just noticing what it's like to drop awareness into this part of the body. sense of arriving here. And then noticing what sensations draw your attention. There will be some location, some point of contact, some sensation in a muscle or the spine or the skin. Just noticing what happens as we explore those sensations. And of course, around this present moment, physical connection to body. What happens when we notice the thinking or emotions that come up around what we find? The joy of connecting to something that feels pleasant. Maybe even the disappointment of connecting to something unpleasant. Both are rich experiences to explore as we drop into awareness. But can we be aware of thought as thought, emotion as emotion, sensation as sensation? On an in-breath of our choice, we can recognize everything that we've found as we rested our attention in the back. On an out-breath, let it all go and invite now our attention from shoulders down through the arms into the hands and fingers. And this time without too much guidance, Just some space to be with any sensations that might arise, any emotions or thoughts around those, as we rest our attention in arms, hands, and fingers. Even just noticing what it's like to be distracted and what it's like to come back into awareness. So we can bring an in-breath to recognize all that we found in arms and hands and fingers, all that we noticed around, resting our attention there. On an out breath, we can let that all go. Return to the breathing, in breath and out breath. On an in breath of your choice, inviting awareness now to rest in throat, neck, jaw, face, and head. Noticing what happens as we shift our attention to this part of the body. That sense of arriving here, of opening to whatever sensations might draw your attention. Of dropping into this region in this moment and finding what is alive. Whatever we find, whether we want to stay or if there's a sense of resistance, can we just explore what that's like? What's drawing us in? What's pushing us away? On an in-breath, just recognizing anything that we've noticed as we rest attention with the head. And on an out-breath, letting that go. And returning attention now to breath, to belly, to chest, and the whole body around that. This whole body that breathes all by itself. All connected together. Feeling the in-breath replenish, expand. Feeling the out-breath release and relax. Inviting the body to feel just that little bit heavier with every out-breath. With every out-breath, feeling the legs heavier and held and received by chair or mat or bed. With every out-breath, feeling those arms heavier, feeling the back supported, being received by the surface, the head and neck relieved of any weight as they sink into chair or bed or cushion. And we just rest here with breath and body. And you can allow these words to just pass through your awareness. Jon Kabat-Zinn asks, what do we mean when we talk about cultivating mindfulness? And he continues, there is no question that mindfulness is one of the hardest things in the world for us humans to tap into consistently. And even though we can taste it and recognize that experience of tasting in an instant, in any instant, the invitation is always the same, to stop for a moment, just one moment, and drop into wakefulness. That's all. Stop and drop, meaning drop into your experience of experiencing. And for even the briefest of moments, simply holding it in awareness as it is, in no time. Or to put it differently, in this timeless moment we call now, the only moment we can actually ever have. Luckily, if we miss this moment because we're distracted by one thing or another, caught up in thinking or in our emotions or with the busyness of what always seems to need getting done, there is always the next moment to begin again, to stop and drop into wakefulness in this moment of now. It seems so simple, and it is, but it's not easy. In fact, looked at one way, a moment of mindfulness with no agenda whatsoever other than to be aware is just about the hardest thing in the world for us humans to come to. And it is even harder for us to string two moments of mindfulness together. And yet, paradoxically, mindfulness doesn't involve doing anything at all. In fact, it's a non-doing, a radical non-doing. And right inside any moment of non-doing lies peace, insight, creativity, and new possibilities in the face of old habits of mind and old habits of living. Right in that or any moment of non-doing, you're already okay, already perfect, in the sense of perfectly who and what you are. And therefore, right in that moment, you are already at home in a profound way, far beyond who you think you are and the ideas and opinions that may so shape and sometimes severely limit your view of the larger whole. Not to mention your own possibilities for experiencing that wholeness and benefiting from it. And most interesting of all is the realization that there is no that moment at some other time, except in thought. In actuality, there is only this moment for dropping in. None of this means that you won't get things done. In fact, when your doing comes out of being, when it is truly a non-doing, it is a far better doing, a far more creative and even effortless than when we are striving to get things done without an ongoing awareness moment by moment. When our doing comes out of being, it becomes an integral and intimate part of a love affair with awareness itself, and with our ability to inhabit that space in our own mind and heart, and to share it with others who are also engaged in that way of being as well. None of this means that what you are experiencing has to be pleasant, either during formal meditation practice or in the unfolding of your life. It won't be, and it can't be. The only reason mindfulness is of any value is that it is profoundly and completely up to the challenge of relating wisely to any experience, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, wanted or unwanted, even horrific or unthinkable. Mindfulness is capable of meeting and embracing suffering head on. And when it is suffering that is predominantly at a particular moment or time in your life. We don't learn much, if anything, about non-doing in school, but most of us have experienced moments of radical non-doing as children. In fact, tons of them. Sometimes it becomes as wonder, sometimes as play, and sometimes as a concern for someone else, a moment of kindness. Another way to put it is that mindfulness is all about being, as in human being, and about life unfolding here and now as it is and embraced in awareness. Therefore, it takes virtually no effort because it's already happening. All it requires is learning to reside in your direct experiencing of this moment, whatever it is, without necessarily thinking that it's particularly yours. After all, even you is just a thought construct when you put it under the microscope and examine it. And if you do, you may discover that who you think you are is a very small and at least partially inaccurate account of who and what you actually are. In an instant, you can recognize how large the full dimensionality of your own being really is. You are already whole, already complete, as you are, and at the same time, you are part of a much larger whole, however you care to define it. That larger whole, let's call it the world, sorely needs that fully embodied and more realized version of you. Our wholeness manifests in everyday life as wakefulness, as pure awareness. Our awareness is an innate human capacity, one that we hardly ever pay attention to or appreciate or learn to inhabit. Ironically, it's already yours. You were born with it. You don't need to acquire it, merely to familiarize yourself with this dimension of your own being. Your capacity for awareness is more you and more useful than virtually anything else about you, and that includes all your thoughts and opinions. And since the paradox is that all of us already know who we are in our fullness, this means that in the cultivation of mindfulness, there is literally no place to go, nothing to do, and no special experience that you are missing or are supposed to have. The fact that you are able to experience anything at all is already extremely special. Ironically, however, the truth of that is hardly ever recognized, as we quest for that special something that always seems to somehow elude or frustrate our desiring. Perhaps that perfect meditative moment in our own fantasy of what meditation should produce if you're doing it correctly. There is nothing to acquire because you are missing nothing and you lack for nothing, despite what your habitual patterns of thinking and wanting might be telling you in any given moment. You are already whole, already complete, already alive in this moment, already beautiful just as you are. So no improvements are either necessary or possible. This is it. The only thing we're missing is recognizing the actuality of life unfolding in this moment, in the form of you, in the form of me, in every dimension of that unfolding in the timeless presence we call now, and realizing it, allowing it to be apprehended and thus made real in its fullness. There are no words for this, because words are merely, for all their power and beauty when strung together, elements of thinking about things, and thus once removed from direct apprehension. At this point we enter the domain of pure poetry, where we attempt to use words to go beyond words, to convey what is not possible to say in a prose sentence. At this point, we're tapping into what one of his colleagues says is an implicational holistic meaning, much more akin to directly feeling something and knowing it in one's bones, in one's heart, way beneath the words and concepts we might apply to the experience later. Perhaps in the end, it is this capacity that makes us human rather than automatons. And it's precisely here that we interact or interconnect with the domain of embodied mindfulness practice. So let's just notice what it's like to shift from listening to the words to just being in awareness. And we'll finish today's practice with just a few minutes of silence and being with whatever is alive in your awareness. as we know, the practice never ends. So as we go forwards into next week or the week ahead, the day ahead, the moment ahead, we always have this capacity with one breath to fall awake, to fall into awareness, to drop into this moment and to really live that experience in full awareness of sensation or sound or taste or thought or emotion, to be with our lived experience. So we can take today's practice into our lived moment by moment life. But for now, we'll bring our practice to a close. And as we do so, just remind yourself of this gift you've given yourself, this moment, this whole flow of moments of just being in awareness. The gift of a pause, the gift of your practice, self-care. Also, the gift you've given to everyone else in today's practice, and the gift that they give you as we all share in our practice together, as we hold each other in awareness. So as we bring the practice to an end, we might start wiggling toes or fingers, feeling that in our awareness too, just how it feels to be moving those fingers and toes. And when you're ready, you'll feel that become a movement into arms or legs as the body maybe shifts or stretches, a yawn or a sigh as we come out of this practice. And when you're ready and eyes open, taking in the room around you, sounds and sights. And then eventually coming into awareness of the screen and maybe coming back to the screen again. We have a little chat about today's practice. And if you're watching on the recording, you have an opportunity now maybe to just journal a little bit about what's alive in your practice today.